I have 100% proof that God is real, and it is because you can't find him. You heard that right. I proposition that God is real because you can't find him. Now let's just take a step back and think about this for a moment. Let's say that God had the powers, the trivial powers of just Superman. You would not be able to find God if he didn't want you to find him. He could simply fly up to the moon and live on the backside of the moon and be like, well, no, we can do that. We, by human science and nature and our apparatus and technology and funding, we can go find God. And so we fly up to the moon and we find out, oh, he's not here. Well, maybe he went to Mars. And so maybe we venture further out. But if he just had the trivial powers of Superman, God could stay out of reach of mankind. Mankind would not be able to find him. I mean, for goodness sake, you can't even find Jesus's body. But thinking about this, with the grasp that atheists come after God with, they want to use the power of the mind to find God. So like, we know that philosophically, it can be proven that human beings believe in truth. And universally, it is accepted that there is some concepts of right and wrong. And atheists might not want to endorse this outright, but they still function as if there's ultimate right and wrong. And then there is this order of logic that is so fantastic that if it is dialed in correctly and we're following logic correctly, we'll abandon false ideas, we'll abandon biases, we'll change and shift to new paradigms and replace thoughts that are very near and dear to us to be right and correct. But with all of this great super power of the human mind, it's still not enough to find God. Maybe because he doesn't want us to find him with just our mind. Think of it like this for a second. Imagine a man that is incredibly tired and he wants just to lay down and take a nap. And so he makes a place on the couch and he's got his eyes closed and he is craving sleep. And his wife says, Hey Fred, these hooligans, are these hooligans trouble? And he doesn't want to open his eyes. He doesn't want to get up and come over to the window. And he's already got a rocky marriage with this woman that he's, they're on their last legs anyway. The relationship's not good, and he just doesn't want to deal with her. And he's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And like, well, there's these hoodlums walking around the street. Well, I don't hear anything. And it's like, well, Fred, they are. They look really bad. And they just broke this mailbox down, and now they're stomping on it. He's like, well, I don't hear anything. And they're getting closer, Fred. They're kicking the dog. And he's like, I don't hear any dog yelping or anything. And like, oh, they're picked up some bats and they're coming towards your sports car. And if Fred really, really wants to take a nap and he doesn't hear anything, why would he ever bother to open his eyes? But yet his wife's pleading with him, open your eyes. And Fred is never going to see the hooligans until he opens his eyes. Well, the reason I mentioned that you can't find God is because he doesn't want you to find him. He actually says that you will find him when you seek for him with all of your heart. Now, to keep this in balance, God never asked us to live without our mind, as many atheists proclaim, but we're actually told to develop our minds and to love God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so when I say heart here, I'm talking about with a passionate fervor with all that is in you, etc. And so if you were only pursuing God with your mind and you're like, oh, my intelligence, I can't ever find God. I've looked for him in this argument and I've looked for him in that argument and I've screened this and I've read that. You are never going to find God because he doesn't want you to find him in this fashion. That sort of offered relationship doesn't work. It doesn't work in reality. If you only approach the people around you, and let's say you try to build relationships with people around you only with your intelligence, only with your intellect, it's going to run into serious problems. In fact, it is so tragic and does not work that we do not operate that way as human beings. And I don't care how intelligent atheists are, if they begin to apply that metric to their life, they begin to destroy all of the relationships around them until they don't have any relationships. You have to actually include your heart in dealing with relationships. Now, it is foolish to only use your heart. And that's one thing that atheists are scared of, is they're scared of using their heart because they might be wrong, or they might get hurt, or they already have been hurt. And so they want to reserve that. And so they're like, well, it's safer to live with the mind instead of with the heart. It is foolish to live only with the heart. And so I give the example of a man coaching his daughter, and he would be like, hey, daughter, when you go to school, you can't just listen to everything those girls say. They might take advantage of you. They might manipulate you. They might say negative things about you, but you can't live with only your heart. You also have to include your mind. Oh, that boy that told you he loved you, you can't only approach this with your heart. You've got to figure in your mind. Oh, when you go to spend money, little daughter, you cannot spend with just your heart, or you're going to run into serious problems. So God hasn't designed life where you just live with your heart. You would also include your mind. But the vice versa is just as true. If you only live with your intelligence, you are going to destroy relationships around you. And if God is the author and creator of all relationships and of humankind, and he says that we are an expression of who he is, that we were created in his image, and we were actually created to have a relationship with him, then he never wants to engage in a relationship with us that is of the intelligence only. If it doesn't work in the vertical plane, it's sure not going to work in the horizontal plane.